Diabetes coming.
Diabetes.
You walk into a supermarket, you reach for a block of chocolate. Most of the shelves are filled with familiar names: Cadbury, Nestle, Lindt. Brands that sound local, comforting, nostalgic, but almost all of them are owned by global food giants. Their recipes are standardized, their decisions are made offshore, their factories have come and gone. There's one major exception, and most people don't realize how rare it actually is. Whittaker's didn't start as a multinational brand strategy. It didn't begin with venture capital, marketing teams, or scale. It began in 1896 with one man, James Henry Whittaker, selling handmade confectionery from a horse-drawn cart in Christchurch. J.H. Whittaker wasn't guessing his way through chocolate. Before arriving in New Zealand in 1890, he had already worked in large English confectionery operations in Birmingham, with exposure to chocolate-making traditions dating back to the mid-1800s in Macclesfield. He brought that knowledge with him, and built slowly. In the early years, Whittaker's wasn't even a chocolate company in the modern sense. It made small, handmade sweets. Chocolate came later as the business refined its focus and demand grew. In 1913, the company made its first major move, relocating to Wellington, not because Christchurch had failed, but because Wellington offered better access to a growing population and distribution networks. That same year, J.H.'s sons, James and Ronald, joined the business, and it was renamed J.H. Whittaker and Sons Limited, a name still stamped on the factory today. This wasn't expansion for ego, it was generational succession, and that pattern would quietly define the company for more than a century. In 1969, Whittaker's moved again, this time to Porirua, just north of Wellington. Space in the city was tightening, motorway development threatened the existing site, and the company needed room to grow properly. The Porirua factory became, and remains, Whittaker's only manufacturing site. No offshoring, no satellite factories, no quiet shutdowns. Since 1969, every block of Whittaker's chocolate has come from that one location. And unlike many competitors, Whittaker's runs a bean-to-bar operation. They control roasting, grinding, and production end-to-end. That matters because it gives them control over flavour, texture, and sourcing, instead of relying on pre-processed chocolate mass shipped in from overseas. While the global chocolate industry moved toward shortcuts, Whittaker's moved the other way. They removed palm oil entirely, a decision that cost more but avoided the taste and ethical issues that later consumed their rivals. In the 2010s and 2020s, they transitioned to 100% Rainforest Alliance Certified cocoa, primarily sourced from Ghana, with partnerships extending into the Pacific, including Samoa. That sourcing hasn't been static. Global cocoa shortages from 2023 onward, driven by poor West African harvests and climate pressure, forced Whittaker's, like everyone else, to diversify supply across Africa. But the standards didn't change. Ethics stayed intact. What did change was the competitive landscape. As Whittaker's stayed steady, others stumbled. In 2009, Cadbury replaced cocoa butter with palm oil in New Zealand. The backlash was immediate. Consumers complained about taste, texture, and ethics. Social media lit up, trust cracked. Then in 2017, Cadbury shut its Dunedin factory, ending more than a century of local production and moving manufacturing offshore. That moment reshaped the market. Many New Zealanders didn't just switch brands, they switched loyalty. Whittaker's didn't need to attack. It didn't need to gloat. It just kept making chocolate the same way it always had. And the public noticed. By the late 2000s, Whittaker's had become New Zealand's largest chocolate brand, holding roughly 30% export share across Australia, Asia, and beyond. Hundreds of people work at the Porirua site, revenue sits in the hundreds of millions. Yet ownership never changed hands. No mergers, no buyouts, no private equity exits. During the 1990s and 2000s, when iconic New Zealand food brands were being absorbed by overseas corporations, Whittaker's received offers. They said no, again and again. Growth would come through product, not scale at any cost. Today, the business is led by third-generation brothers Andrew and Brian Whittaker, with fourth-generation family members now involved in operations and marketing. That continuity is almost unheard of in modern food manufacturing. Whittaker's has avoided scandals, labour disputes, and factory closures. It doesn't shout about being local, it simply is. Even when cocoa prices surged more than 200% globally between 2024 and 2026, the company adapted quietly, making subtle sourcing and formulation adjustments without compromising standards. In 2025, Whittaker's lost its long-held most trusted brand title after more than a decade, likely due to price pressure in a tight economy, but not because of any ethical failure, and that's the point. In an industry defined by shrinkflation, offshoring, ingredient shortcuts, and corporate consolidation, Whittaker's stands out not because it stayed small, but because it stayed consistent. So when you pick up a block of Whittaker's, you're not just buying chocolate, you're buying something that has survived for 130 years without selling itself out. And in today's food industry, that might be the rarest ingredient of all. If this made you look twice at what's in your shopping trolley, like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment, because knowing who owns your food and how it's made still matters.